The Go Radio Football Show. The countdown to the new season is underway.
Let's go!
And the headline just after 5 o'clock. Paul Cooney here with the Celtic legend Peter Grant. Peter, Jota, we understand, is set to leave. You won't see him again playing for Celtic. He's off to the Middle East. The deal has pretty much been done with Al Ittihad in Jeddah, and he's going for the petrodollars. Are you surprised that Jota's leaving at 24?
Yes, I am, and disappointed. But you can't, Paul, when you're talking about the monies they're talking about now, if you're talking about £25 million, you're talking about £10 million a year for the player, it's very, very difficult. I'm disappointed because it's not one of the big leagues. If you lose them to England, which is predominantly the biggest league, everybody says, but when you see the money that's getting wrapped about, it's impossible for the club and for the player probably to knock back.
And it's no longer players necessarily like Ronaldo, amazing players, but towards the end of the career, Ruben Neves the other day, and now Jota.
Well, that's my worry. You know, like I say, Neves, I love him as a player. I think he's a top quality player. Could play at the top league in England, absolutely no doubt, with one of the top sides. Seeing these players go is very, very disappointing, because we all want to see these guys playing in the top leagues, in the Champions League, which is predominantly known as the best competition. You want to see them all playing in it, and it's disappointing to lose them. And that's no disrespect, Saudi Arabia or whatever. I don't want them to go out the country. You want to see them week in, week out playing against the best. And going out there, as you say, it used to be a retirement home. That just doesn't seem to be the way it's going to be. They're just going to throw money time and time again at everyone.
Celtic fans, what are you thinking? Jota, it'll be announced soon. We understand the deal has been pretty much done. He's going to be heading to Saudi Arabia. 0808 17 17 700. We've got, well, lots of news today. Marco Tilio, the deal's done as well. And Aaron Moy, we talked about him a few days ago, and he's retiring all too early. Over at Rangers, Cyril Dessers, the deal looks to be on. The Cremonese star striker could be in his way. It looks as though he's coming to Ibrox.
Well, they said they've needed a number 9, and that's what he's predominantly going to be, because I think they were signing a lot of number 10s that or people could play in that 10 position. You know, listen, to be fair to Michael, he's went out there, his 8th signing, I'm not sure, since he came in, really.
That's right, yes, 6 of the summer, 8th all in.
Yeah, so you're looking at it now and you're thinking, well, he knew he had to make changes, he had to make the group stronger as well. And now it'll be interesting to see the ones that's going to go out the door.
Transfer Roundup on the Go Radio Football Show with CSD Air Conditioning. Contact them today for air conditioning servicing and repairs.
Paul Cooney with Peter Grant here from the Gorbals on Glasgow's own Go Radio. We were with some great people last night, Peter, and many of them were asking for you. I'll talk about that later on the programme. And we're also going to speak to the son of a very special man that Partick Thistle and the family all lost during COVID. Kevin is going to be joining us, speaking about his dad, Paul Kelly, a wee bit later in the programme. And there's a big tournament going on at Peters Hill, and he's going to tell us more about it. The football never stops, and as you know, this morning we got the fixtures list. You looked at it immediately, Peter. What did you think of it? Rangers going to Kilmarnock, Celtic at lunchtime at home to Ross County.
Listen, I think you're looking at the top 2 all the time and you're thinking who's got the fixtures. Then you look at the bounce on after that. Who do they play next? Have they got 2 tough games away at a certain period? And when you look through the full fixture list, I look at it and I think Rangers looks a little bit, more balanced than Celtic's does. If you look at it, Celtic have got a couple of tough ones away at the same time, or the week after a week. And then Rangers, you're thinking, and then before the break, I know it's a long way away again, Rangers have got that one at Ibrox as well. So when it goes to the 6 week, when it goes to the last 6, the top 6, Rangers are the last fixture at home. And you always look at wee things like Christmas. Where do we play at Christmas?
Is this a conspiracy theory?
No, well, I was saying that to my pal this morning when he was phoning me and letting me know that. He was actually thinking, he said, it's definitely been a Rangers man that's picked it, so he was letting me know that this morning.
Celtic start Ross County at home on the 5th of August, Aberdeen away on the 12th, St Johnstone at home on the 26th, and then they go to Ibrox, of course, Sunday, September the 3rd. And then, of course, there's the internationals, Cyprus against Scotland and Scotland against England, and Celtic at Dundee after that. Rangers, they start on Saturday the 5th. They're away at Kilmarnock, as you mentioned. They're at Livy at home, Ross County away, and then Celtic at Ibrox. So it's going to be some start to the season. What are you thinking, Rangers fans? Or whatever your team is, how are you looking forward to this season? 0808 17 17 700. So the transfer moments, Peter, it's got a lot of transfers in the next half an hour or so. Cyril Dessers, we talked about him a moment or two ago. Abdallah Sima was signing number 6, wasn't he?
Yeah.
What do you reckon about Sima? What do you know of him? The Brighton
I've only seen him a
forward.
couple of times, when he played in Europe. Was it Slavia or Sparta?
That's right,
Slavia.
Slavia.
And he done very well. He had good movement. I thought he looked sharp and bright. and he scored against Leicester, if I'm correct.
Correct.
You know, as
Yep.
well. You know, so I was quite impressed with him, actually. You know, so listen, it's great if you've got good players coming with experience of playing in Europe and whatever. You're hoping the standard of Rangers go up. You hope the standard of Celtic go up. You know, that's why, like say, Jota moving on. Okay, that opens the door for someone else. It means gives them a lot of money to say, well, okay, let's see what we could go and buy and how we can replace. And I think that they need to have done something different anyway, because I think Brendan plays slightly different for Ange anyway. So there need to have been changes along the road anyway. But to get that type of money is phenomenal, especially when you only played $6 million for him last year. Yes, disappointed to see him go, but listen, the club and the player cannot knock back what they're getting offered there.
Aaron Moy, we won't see him play again. It was a short period at Celtic, but my goodness, he made a big impact on that treble-winning team.
Yeah, well, it's a shame for him because at the start I really liked Aaron. I'd seen a lot of him down in England, especially when I was down there, and I really liked him as a player. I know it came at Celtic, it was a bit of a slow burner. I think it was a bit unfortunate because he hadn't played for a long time. But then when you seen him when he was fit and he was playing the matches, how good he was. You watched him in the World Cup, how good he was. You know, I thought he was excellent in the World Cup. And I'm really disappointed for him, you know, that he's decided to retire because in football terms, he's a young man. He looks a fit young man. But as we say, playing a lot of games, Paul, you never know that they could be carrying slight injuries, anything like that, and they just think, well, the body's not going to take it anymore. So, and I keep saying it to people, after you're a footballer, you've got a life with your family, you've got to be able to be physically fit enough to look after them and enjoy them if you've got kids. And some people think, okay, I'm getting a bit close to that, I'll not be able to have that enjoyment, and you have to make a decision. Unfortunately, as I say, for Aaron, as a young man, I'm delighted for him because people talk about him now, and I've said it before, they talk about Aaron Moy, Celtic. They don't talk about Huddersfield. They don't talk about anybody else. They talk about Aaron Moy, Celtic. And it's an incredible thing to go with. And he deserved that with his performances last year.
I saw Ryan Kent said that about his time at Rangers. You know, he put an emotional message about his time. No matter where he goes, he said he'll take Rangers with him in his heart. Staying at Celtic at the moment, though, with the transfers, and we obviously wish Aaron Moy all the best. You'd hope he'd get a farewell to the fans at some point. You know, maybe come to a game before he heads on with his life. But he's not even 33 yet. But
it'd be very well received, Paul, no matter what, for what he did last year. He was a big part of it. And I just say, as many times I say about Joe Hart, maybe he's helped Callum around about that, you know, that dressing room, that experience, the game knowledge he's learned throughout the world. And his performances, by the way, in the World Cup were outstanding.
Yeah, people sat up and took notice of him. So one Australian going out, one coming in, a 21-year-old Marco Tilio. We've been speaking about it for days. It's happened today. He's got 5 caps, Peter, hasn't he, for Australia?
Yeah. And the thing about him, you talk about players now, we're asking, is he a centre forward, is he wide right, is he wide left? He's just a forward, you know, and they'll play this position now because sometimes you can play in a front three and they become 3 forwards together, whereas we used to complain that they were only playing with 1 striker. Now I always like people up the pitch anyway. I like forwards. You know, when you're playing with that 1 striker, you used to get coached when we were young kids, it was always the 2 strikers movement. Now you're looking at it and you don't pigeonhole someone, you know, and I think it becomes the balance of the team then. You're looking at Celtic and you're saying, well, Jota's gone, will he play on that left hand side cutting in? You don't know. Abada, hopefully he's going to stay. I know people talk about him going. I'd like him to stay because I think he's a right goal scoring threat. He's a young man as well.
Didn't have to keep him now with Jota going.
Yeah, I really like him anyway. Yeah. But unless, listen, you know, everywhere is the same. The money now, if Celtic offered silly money for them, it'd be stupid for them not to take it because all of a sudden the player gets a grip of that, they want to go on. And that's why we said about the badge on the front's the most important thing, and the name on the back will always change.
Marco Tilio, he played for Sydney's hometown team and then he moved to Melbourne a couple of years ago and he's now coming to Glasgow. So it's another signing in this closed season. At Rangers then, we talked about him at the top of the programme. Cyril Desires could be coming. Looks as though the deal is done. Rangers now getting their business done quite early. Yeah,
I think, listen, any manager will tell you they'd love to have all their players in place for pre-season. I think Rangers started back today, if I'm correct. You know, so they're back today, and you want as many players as you possibly can for going on your pre-season trip because the manager wants to get all these points across. You don't want to be going to lastminute.com, which sometimes can happen financially and whatever. And there's certain players you can allow that to happen with because they know the role they're going to play. You know, I'm sure Michael wanted many bodies. What is he get? 6, 8 or saying since he started.
Yeah, 6 this summer.
6 in the summer. So you'll want to make sure that they go and understand what it is to play for Rangers first and foremost, and that's difficult at first because you don't realise the pressure that comes along with that, and then getting them together with another group of players because there is a big mixture now. It used to be 20 boys in the squad for Scotland, you know, and now all of a sudden it's all over the world. We had a couple of foreigners in it later in my career, And all of a sudden it changes everything, because you're want to look after them, you want to go and visit them in a hotel, they don't want to maybe sitting in their house themselves, so you've got to try and get all that mixture to make sure that their wives, their kids, everybody's happy. So there's a lot goes to building a football team, and I think that's why Michael's trying to get it done as quick as he possibly can.
How big do you feel this season is going to be for Michael Beale and for Brendan Rodgers?
It's always massive. That never changes. As I say, you've got to finish first.
Yep.
That's it. And then play well. Everybody will accept you playing well, disappointed. But as I say, you've got to finish first, and there's pressure on both for different reasons. And sometimes the Michael one comes down because he's had the period there. The pressure's on Brendan because the way he left the last time, and people keep bringing that up. And then I think we should be delighted we've got somebody of his quality coming back. That's what I think. And it's going to be interesting to see Michael now starting the race at the beginning. Then there can be no excuses for anyone. You say, well, this is okay, that we've put everything in place, this is what the team we've selected, this is the players that I've brought in. And then everybody looks and listen, somebody's tactical. As I said, I was really impressed with Raskin and Cantwell, which we knew Cantwell for a while, but I was impressed with the signings. And if these boys keep bringing in signings like that, I'm sure the Rangers fans will be delighted.
There's an update, Peter, in the last few minutes. Rangers have agreed a deal in principle for Cyril Desires to come from Cremonese. They were in Serie A, they went down to B, and he is coming. It's pretty much done then, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I seen him a few times last year because I was interested in watching young big Jack Henry playing, and it was difficult because they were mostly on the back foot because they were going to be getting relegated, and it's very, very difficult for a striker. But what you hear is they say, yeah, he's a centre forward who likes to play the channels and run the channels to get in the box between defenders. So I think Rangers need that anyway, because if you've got number 10s, as I say, they've got quite a lot of them, you need the game stretch to create that space. So you'd have to get someone who's want to get in the box. And listen, I keep getting back to I like Cholak. I know Rangers maybe.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. Sometimes players are not great in the eye when you're doing training and everything, things break down on them. But the one thing I can say about that boy, every time I've seen him, he looks a threat. Yeah, he looks a threat, and his goal scoring record is excellent. And maybe that becomes a player because listen, you can't just go with one number 9. That's for sure. And unfortunately, it's the most difficult place to get, and they're the ones that cost you the most money.
Some other news: Hearts and Hibs are looking to sign Dylan Levitt. Dundee United, of course, have gone down. It's no surprise, really. How highly do you rate him?
I've been very impressed with what I've seen. I never knew much about him till I watched him in the games last year. And to say, sometimes you can see in a struggling side that he lifted them, and produced that little bit of quality. And I think he's a quality young player who you hope is only going to get better, because I think you want other teams to be stronger. As I say, I go back to my days. Hearts, Hibs, you name it, Dundee United, Aberdeen, how well they were doing in Europe, all of them, and you talk about that Hearts team when we won the league in '85, they'd went something like 22 games.
That's right, you were.
But a fantastic team with John Roberts and Gary Mackay, Davy Bowman, all these guys were excellent players, all Scottish internationals at that particular time. So you're the same with Aberdeen, and I'd make fantastic to get back to that, and that's why I keep going back to the youths and the BE things. There are too many substitutes because they would never have been substitutes. They'd have moved to another club, so the other clubs would have been stronger. They'd have been playing at the other clubs, and that's what happened. I'm hoping it gets back to that, and that, as I say, because the more spread of good young players we've got coming through makes the national team even stronger than we're just doing fantastic just now. But that's what you want to look, young Scottish players or young players be coming into the game.
Give them a chance.
Absolutely. And they don't get a chance at this moment in time as soon as you've got 25 guys sitting in a squad.
I know.
You've never got an opportunity. You're now at 24. If you've not had a chance, you're still a youngster. I mean, you had about 200 games under you at 24, in the first team, and things have changed now. And I feel it'll be a bit difficult for really good young players who are not getting that opportunity.
Young man who is now a mature player, but he did a lot for Aberdeen in the last few months, Graham Shinney. So he's back. They've got the signing has done. You think that's isn't it obviously a good move for Barry Robson?
I really enjoyed working with him with the national team. I thought he was a terrific kid.
What's he like?
I thought he was excellent. I can see why Barry, and people will say, he doesn't do this or he doesn't do that. He was an unbelievable professional who want to get you talk about people who get the maximum out of their career and deserves every bit he deserves it because he's worked really, really hard, to get what he's got. He's come back up the road. I thought he was a big difference for Aberdeen. He was a catalyst. I know Barry and that came in done really, but I thought he was a catalyst for what they'd done last year. And as I say, I was really impressed with him as a young man, never mind as a footballer, and I'm delighted for him. And as I say, it's a fantastic signing for Aberdeen.
Back to Celtic, they say, well, they're not saying it officially, but it's speculated that they would need 25 million if Kyogo is to go anywhere this summer. So I haven't heard any update in the last few days, but the word is Brendan Rodgers is keen to keep him.
Of course, yeah. As a manager, you want to keep your top goal scorer. He's a top quality player. But we know what the bottom line is at this moment in time. You're a bit concerned about the Saudis thing. You know, that's the Saudi thing more than anything else, because I don't think anybody would pay 25 million at this moment in time, because you think of the career Kieran Tierney had at Celtic, the amount of European games he had, and I know he's a full-back, people are going to say he's a full-back, but such a strong position, an important position.
So creative.
Absolutely, at full-back. And all of a sudden they paid 20 odd million for Kieran at that particular time. I think obviously Kyogo, unless they come and blow it away again with silly money, Kyogo will be at Celtic Park.
Burnley have been interested in him, but they reckon 25 million might be just too rich for Vincent Kompany's team. Although anyone really in the Premier League in England can probably afford 25 million.
Championship, Paul, would pay you that now. It's incredible. People laugh when you talk about it, but it's incredible the finances down in the Championship, and it goes all the way down into the lower leagues. I know there's a boys on £2,500 who play part-time.
Part-time?
Yeah, but in the North and South divisions down there.
£125,000 a year?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
On top of their job.
Wow. There's not many people.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Get that. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
But people laugh, because it always concerns me, because people think managers up here are lazy at times. They say, well, can you not go and get him? Or could you not go and get him? I say, yeah, go and see what his wages are.
Right. It's another universe now, isn't it?
Absolutely. Go and see what his wages
yeah.
are. But that's, as I say, that's below the conference. That's below the conference, not that conference.
What are you thinking about Celtic's tour to Japan and more specifically South Korea? So it was the O returning home. Wolves have pulled out, Roma as well.
Obviously financial problems are the sponsors, and it's very difficult. And I can understand why the clubs, because pre-season's so important. You need to know where you're going, you know. And in our day we used to go to be Sweden, Switzerland, whatever, Germany, and it was fantastic, Holland. And it was brilliant, because even playing the non-league teams was so difficult, so physical, you know, and it was great. But it was 2.5 weeks, Paul, in intensity. I mean, it was 3 and 4 sessions a day. You'd get battered in the morning, you'd get battered in the afternoon, and then you'd play a game at night, you know, just to get your fitness up. That was what it was, you know, at that particular time. Now they've got to go all over the world to sell their name. I found that down in England more than up here. You know, Celtic didn't need to sell their name.
Sure.
When I went to Birmingham, Villa and all, you were going to Asia and playing pre-season games in there. I didn't like that. No. I just thought there was too much razzmatazz round about it. The time difference, all these things come into it. And the players, they'd rather be in Europe to get used to get their body clock light. Sure. They don't know how hard they're working anyway. The food, small things like the food was so important. All these things.
Plus you had European football.
Absolutely.
It was a big thing when you were playing it.
Absolutely.
And it hopefully is again for Celtic. It has been for Rangers as well. But that's a great point, to be around Europe rather than the Far East.
Absolutely. And it was so important. And we felt that was important for us. And I know the world's changing. I know it's global. But sometimes, and maybe the likes of Wolves and Roma and that will be delighted that the second part's not got. I know Celtic will be disappointed because it's part of your preparation. And obviously there's a connection with Celtic, with O, as you say. Sure. I'm sure the Japan one is still on at this moment in time. So they've got 2 games there, which is great. But they may end up having to come back now to play in Europe somewhere, which maybe help them in some respects. So thankfully they've had a little bit of time to maybe get organised, and they can prepare for that. I'm sure people will open their arms to bring Celtic to come and play against them.
You know the voice, that's Peter Grant. 0808 17 17 700. Peter's here until 6 tonight. We're going to take a quick break. That's us up to date with the transfers. But yeah, that is the breaking news. Rangers have agreed in principle that Desires will probably be coming to Ibrox, and Marco Tilio is also now coming to Glasgow. He's coming to Celtic.
Transfer Roundup on the Go Radio Football Show with CSD Air Conditioning. Experienced installers of air conditioning systems. The Go Radio Football Show. The countdown to the new season is underway.
Let's go!
The close season is over for the Rangers players. They're back today. Auchenhowie, some pictures there. I can see James Tavernier, or Tavernier, as you call him, Peter Grant.
I keep getting mixed up. I'm not being disrespectful.
No, I know you're not. No, you're not alone. A lot of people say that as well. Barry always smiles. No, indeed. Great footballer though, Peter Grant. I've got that in the script here.
Thanks, Paul.
And Celtic are back on Monday. You scored 20 odd goals actually, normally from outside the box, wasn't it? We were speaking with James just before the show.
People laugh because I think it was about 3 or 4 times I ended up in goal of the season. You know, in the top 3. And I say, well, what are you surprised at? Because I scored 20 odd goals. I says, but they were all from out the box. So they had to near off the goals of the season.
I see Andy Murray training there, getting ready for Wimbledon. Can you believe it's 10 years since he won it the first time? He won it 2013 and 2016. You like the tennis?
I do. I love watching it. You know, and I was fortunate enough when I was at Fulham. I lived in Wimbledon, during that period, and the tennis was on. I used to love it. And I'm delighted to see Andy. It shows you somebody about guts. Doesn't matter how much money you've got. You know, he's got a sore hip. We've got a new hip and everything, but the work he puts in and the effort he put in, and I was absolutely chuffed, as you say, 10 years ago when he won the competitions. It was fantastic to see.
Football, sport in general, tennis, there's great people, aren't there, at all
absolutely.
levels. And we're about to speak to the son of the late great Paul Kelly, who was involved at Partick Thistle. He was the trust manager and he did loads round Firhill, and everyone lost him in COVID, as so many people did. And his son Kevin is coming on the line because there's a major tournament this weekend at Petershill, and you've got a connection with that, Peter Grant. But let's welcome Kevin to the programme. Good evening, Kevin.
Good evening, guys. How you doing?
Evening, Kevin.
Yeah, we're well, thank you. And this weekend it'll be a mixture of emotions for you. You'll be proud that people are coming together in memory of your dad, but also it'll be hard to believe still. Tell us a little bit about your dad.
Well, you're absolutely right. It certainly will be a mix of emotions, but I think the amount of interest that's been shown in this tournament and what we've put together this weekend has given us real solace. You know, it gives us real comfort and shows that the kind of person he was. You know, he played for Clyde. He had a good, decent career in the kind of lower leagues of Scotland. Played in Hong Kong, but you know, in his latter years, he was all about the community. You know, my dad was just. He made sure that people were all right. That was what he used to say, you know. You just need to make sure they're all right. And if somebody needs help, you help them regardless of their situation. And that's been shown throughout the work they've done with Partick Thistle Charitable Trust. You know, I think through the pandemic, they delivered something like 40,000 meals to people who are living in isolation and in deprivation, to make sure that people were able to sustain health and have sustainability effectively, you know, and he always used football as a tool to bring people together. And we, over this weekend, we are trying to do that as well by bringing teams together that he played for and had good friends and good relationships at, to provide a pre-season tournament for teams to get ready for the season coming, you know.
Kevin, Peter, just, you know, when you hear 40,000 meals, you know, in this day and age, in this society, it's just a scandal, isn't it, that it's needed. And we needed people like Paul and the people around there who rallied to help the poorest during the pandemic.
You look at, like, say, when you were talking about Paul there, and you think, if we get out for an hour, we're complaining because we're only allowed out for an hour, and we're only trying to look after ourselves, never mind anyone else. And we thought we were doing okay, Clapham at 8 o'clock at night. And there was a hell of a lot of people suffering and really difficult, not just with not being able to eat, the loneliness. And you've got guys like Paul going out there to change all that, and without waving a flag and everybody else telling, oh, he's doing a great job and wanting that pat in the back. And the thing that Kevin can be proud of is the fact, even simple thing like tomorrow, you know, everybody wants to come and play, everybody wants to be there. You know, the teams want to be there, the players want to play in it. It's part of a pre-season. Now they're looking after young players, trying to get careers going. So it continues, and football is very special like that. And people talk about us as managers or coaches or whatever, why do you want to stay involved in it? Because of things like this. You know, because these guys, the amount of work that goes on in the background for the youngest age groups, the amount of hours they spend with them, the kids, not just in the football field, but learning them life skills, as in being nice to each other, look after each other, help each other. That's irreplaceable. And that's something that Kevin, and I'm sure his family, I'll be so proud of in the respect of that. And I'm sure you are, Kevin, and obviously tomorrow I was hoping to get there, but but Peter's would be fit to play. Raymond's out, he's a cruciate at this moment in time, but both of them will be there. I've got to watch his dog, unfortunately.
Take the dog.
I thought I was going as well, but then he went back.
Dogs are allowed.
I'm maybe there then.
So Kevin, the Go Radio audience want to hear, so tomorrow and Sunday, who's going to be there?
So it effectively starts tonight. We have an over 40s game who are all, you know, friends of my dad's and people that wanted to be involved, people that have kind of paid £40 to be involved, and all the donations going to Partick Thistle Charitable Trust Now, what I would say is that David Galt, who some of you may know, he was a captain at Queen's Park.
Yeah,
not too long ago.
under young Peter. He was young Peter's captain.
Yep.
Aye, that's right. He's been a really, really big driving force for us. David and I are very good friends, and he had a very good relationship with my dad as well, working with him at the trust. But he's been a very, very big driver of this for us this weekend, and been able to put this on. So over 40s tonight, with an under 40s game at 8 o'clock, and then the big events over Saturday and Sunday are Caledonian Locomotives will play against Clyde, who Caledonian Locomotives used to be Rossvale Juniors, but have now changed their name. Myself and my coaches John McGowan and Stephen Saunders, we take that Caledonian Locomotives team in the West of Scotland League. And then after that at 4 o'clock, the St Rochs.
So what time's the first one? What time's
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock. Okay.
Kickoff. Yep. And then a 4 o'clock kick-off between Glasgow Perthshire and St Rochs. Now, obviously, my dad had a really good affiliation with St Rochs, being there twice and being manager there, player there. Wow. And obviously, when he passed away, he was manager, and I was his assistant there. So it was important that we really hammered home about this was about community and togetherness, and making sure that like he would have wanted, football was a tool to bring people together, to celebrate rather than to commiserate effectively. And
I take it anyone can come along and pay at the gate tonight, tomorrow, Sunday.
Everything's done by donation. Everything's a donation. Wonderful. No set prices, nothing. You just come to the gate. Even if you don't want to pay, just get yourself in. Be part of what we're trying to do here. There's food and drink, but the most important is that there's a spectacle on the pitch that brings people together and gives everybody a chance. And like you say, some of these boys that will play tomorrow will hopefully just be starting out their careers in the game, and it'll be good to be able to say, I seen him in his first game for Clyde or Caledonian Locomotives, and hopefully we see some of these boys in Sky Sports soon.
And Peter, you're the man that so many people. You'll hear it, Kevin, on this programme. Peter Grant, having been at Fulham and Norwich and places you've been, West Ham, obviously Celtic and other clubs. So many people in the game, and everyone starts out somewhere.
Paul, the biggest thing in football for me was the places I've been, the people I've met. I would never, ever have done it in my life if it wasn't down to football. That's fact. And as I say, I went to Norwich at 32 years of age. I thought I'd been there for 5 minutes. Me going to England, I had no family in England, nothing. I ended up being down there for 26 years, But the people you get to know, the people you speak to, the young players you see coming through doing fantastically well now, who are young kids, it's incredible actually. I mean, a small story, a quick story, talk about Eddie Howe doing fantastically well. Eddie was my teammate, but Eddie was only about 18 at Bournemouth at the time. But the full backroom staff was our team that got promoted at was it Millennium or Wembley? I can't remember. We won the playoff, and there was about 80 of the boys are all Eddie's backroom staff. That shows you how close-knit young players. They'll always remember. They'll remember the things that Kevin. They'll remember the things that Paul do for them now. Good, bad, and different. Because you let them down once, they'll always remember that. But if you try and help them, they will never forget you. And as I say, the phone goes, you get texts with people, you asking you this. And that's why you want to be involved in football.
So you could get tickets maybe for Kevin for the trust. We'll see what we can do. I'm not going to try and put it on you, Peter. We'll try and do something.
Absolutely,
Kevin,
100%.
We'll make a donation. Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, how do you want the money to be spent then?
I just want that whatever money comes in needs to go back out into the community. It's just about helping others to be able to get through day-to-day life, whether it's they need somewhere to go, they need somewhere to sleep, but need somewhere to eat, whatever it may be, as long as people in the community who are suffering from isolation, deprivation, whatever it may be, as long as it can provide a path to help them and help them survive, which way it may be.
There's one thing I'd like to say. Your father will be so proud. I know he would have been proud of you anyway, but your father will be so proud of what you're carrying on. It's not easy to continue to do that. It's easy to think, well, that was my dad, I'm slightly different, and whatever. But he'll be looking down upon you with great pride, and you're looking at that tomorrow and starting tonight, as you say. He'll be looking down with great pride, and that's something you should be proud of yourself, never mind anything else.
I really appreciate that, Peter. No. I mean, I must say it's much easier when you've got good people around you, and being able to surround yourself with good people like David and Jim O'Brien, who's been a big influence in helped me through it all as well. You know, they've been really, really good people along with family. You know, that's what you need. So
absolutely,
we just need to continue. But thanks very much for that.
No, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on, Kevin. So it's Petershill Park. I've played in that, Peter Grant. He laughs at me at my football because you know what it's like with professionals, Kevin. If you ever say that you play football, they go, all right, okay.
Well, I used to go watch Stevie Fulton's dad go and play there.
Baggio's dad.
He was a striker. Norrie was a top goal scorer for Petershill Juniors, and with wee Wally Maguire Fairdrie. Both of them were the strike partnership, and Petershill were phenomenal then. And I used to go there thinking it was Wembley.
Of course, yeah.
It was a big park and a big grass pitch, and I used to think, this is someplace I'd love to play.
Well, there were 5,000. I played in a charity game, a radio game, and listen, I hope we get that tonight. So what time's kick off tonight?
The over 40s games at 6:15 and the under 40s games at 8 o'clock.
Kevin,
perfect.
Listen, have a great weekend. You'll be so proud of people coming together in memory of your dad, and as you say, helping those that need it most. Thanks so much,
Absolutely.
Kevin.
All the very best, Kevin. Hope it goes great.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Petershill Park. I remember it. Honestly, I think I said to James there were 8,000 there.
Honestly, I used to. I was like, I always thought
It was
in
a
my head it
Glasgow,
was like,
Edinburgh.
but it was always like a big bowl to me. It looked like a big bowl. Maybe it was never, but that's what it seemed to me. And I used to love going there and watching, because Wally was my cousin, obviously, and young Stevie Fulton's dad. I was only about 6, 7. And used to go along to it, and I used to think, wow. And I think I'm not sure, but I think they used to play some of the Junior Cup finals there. It was such a good pitch. You know, at the particular, maybe I'm 100% wrong, but Petershill were a fantastic side at that time.
For sure. I remember playing against Jimmy Bone as well in a game. Remember the ex?
You'll not forget, because
Well, exactly.
It was a tough,
and somebody said,
tough
oh, come on, this is a friendly. He said, there's no such thing as a friendly.
That's definitely Jimmy.
You clown or something. He said, there's no such thing.
It wouldn't have been as nice a word as that.
Thanks so much. People are coming on just to check then. So Petershill Park, you heard it from 6:15 tonight. There's the over 40s. There's another game as well. And then tomorrow, the game, you've been invited to go along as well, because Clyde against the Locos tomorrow at 1. And then there's a game at 4 o'clock as well. Fantastic.
Yeah,
thanks.
Fantastic work with them all. As you say, David Galt, I know he's a very big champion of David. He's a fantastic young man. So I'm sure the work he's putting on will not be going to miss either.
The Go Radio Football Show. Subscribe to the Go Radio YouTube channel for our latest videos.
Let's go!
Thanks, Chris, for the traffic and travel. This is Paul Cooney on Go Radio, the football show with Peter Grant. The new season. It's not that far away, Peter, is it? Although we're still in June, only just.
Well, I told you that, Paul. When you're champions, you're only champions for a few weeks.
Yeah, just about over.
You're ready to run again. And that's what you've got to do. And your preparation comes now. What you do now, and people always used to say, make sure you get into pre-season training. Make sure you do your pre-season, because if you miss pre-season training, it's very difficult to catch up. I know it's slightly different now, the way they train, but in our particular day, it was tough.
Where were you? Were you Magaluf and all that? So where the?
Yeah, when we went out at the first year, the first boys' trip was somewhere like Magaluf with Big Lexi Bailey was one of the boys that was on the trip. Big Lexi, there was about 3 of us. Had my young boy called John McClendon, who John was a fantastic boy, and the 3 of us went to somewhere like Magaluf. I swear to God, I thought it was other part of the world.
Right.
I was the worst dresser ever, everything like that. You know, you couldn't remember all your gear, and then Magaluf was something different, I must admit, at that particular time.
Well, somebody was asking for you from Spain today, Davy Provin. I spoke to Davy. Mark was over there, and he says, just remind Peter that I said, come on, move out of the way, let me take the free kick. And of course it was the 100th Scottish Cup final. Dundee United were 1 up.
He was unbelievable, Davy. What a fantastic player. I mean, it was funny, somebody sent us it was Mo's first goal at Tannadice for Celtic, and Davy's danced by about 2 or 3, put a fantastic cross in, but he had a hand in the 2 other goals, because he's touched the ball in Murdo, and Murdo's blasted one in with his right foot, and he's touched the free kick to me, and I've lashed one in with my right foot. So it was 2 free kicks and a cross, and Davy was involved in the 3 goals. But what a fantastic player he was. Yeah, again, his career ended too early. He should have a lot more caps as well. He was a fantastic. I mean, we played in Atletico Madrid yet again with a fantastic result over. They were the champions in Spain at the time, and Davy was brilliant that night. Put a great ball in. We drew 1-1. He put a great ball in for Mo Johnson to score again with a header. But a phenomenal player and phenomenal set play taker, and obviously I'll be remembered with the great Frank McGarvey, the 2 of them in the cup final. You know,
how was it? 15 minutes to go. Dundee United. Celtic didn't play well at all. I remember the game. We were covering it, and then that free kick, 1-1, and then the last touch of the ball in Frank McGarvey's career was it Roy Aitken down the right?
Cross, and Frank put a header. He couldn't place it with his hands any better against a top quality goalkeeper, Hamish McAlpine, who many people forget, came to Celtic for a small period of time.
I'd forgotten. Did he?
Yeah, Hamish was
Big
there.
Hamish, ex-Dundee United
Hamish,
superstar.
Alan Roth and all that.
Of course.
They all came
Yeah.
because Big Packy was struggling with a back injury.
He was,
Hamish
Pat
was a
Bonner, that's right.
fantastic man as well, you know.
We're seeing it on Sky there. They're showing you the champion Celtic there just a few short weeks ago, lifting that trophy. They got a treble. In the last few weeks, Rangers have what is that 6 signings now of the summer, and number 7 maybe on the way, because the news is that they've agreed in principle with the Cremonese striker Cyril Desers, who's coming. All these new names coming into the game, and at Celtic, Marco Tilio arriving from Melbourne, 21 years old. Is that a project more? Maybe the fact that
Probably not.
No.
I think Brendan, you look at Brendan statistically, he likes young players to be able to play, you know, and he wouldn't bring people in. I think it's changed since Brendan was there the last time about the players that's come in and having the balance correct. I think that's always important for the way you want to play. So I believe there have been a couple of changes anyway, you know. So now that, as I say, Celtic have had Brendan coming in, you know, you have Telio coming in. I'm sure you'll have a few more. You've had Rangers had 6 in, plus 2 at the end of the season. So there's a lot of changes going to be on in the pitch, you know. So it's interesting, and it's great for us because it spices everything up, and who's going to be playing well, and who's these players that's going to surprise you, how's Brendan's team going to play, and how's everybody going to react. And as I say, I'm sure Celtic have got a few more signings up their sleeve as well, you know. And who'd have thought Jota was going to be away? You know, so things change all the time, and that's what we say about football, Paul. And it surprises you, you get surprised yourself, because nothing surprises you in football.
No, that's the headline tonight. We talked about it yesterday, but I understand that the deal is done, and Jota will be heading, and not in the wing, but on the wings of a plane, heading for the Middle East, age 24. What a player he has been for Celtic. Came on loan the first season. A great piece of business, so wasn't it, to get that £6.5 million and then pay it? Because Celtic are going to make, if it's 25 million, somewhere between 20 and 25, Benfica get what, 30% of it?
Talking about 17 and a half.
But you reckon,
17?
wow, 17 million.
But the funny thing was, a friend of mine was telling me, and it was fact,
Yes.
that Jota was offered to Rangers prior to coming to Celtic the first time, when he was at Benfica, and Rangers knocked it back. So you talk about making wrong decisions at certain times, and we're not saying he'd have been done the same for Rangers, and Rangers probably looked at it and thought they'd Ryan Kent at that particular time. But the person involved was a Rangers man and offered him at Rangers, and they said no, they didn't need him at that particular time, and he ended up, I'm not sure if it was the actual same window, he ended up at Celtic, but it just shows you the amount of money Celtic have made from it.
Yeah.
And a fantastic piece of business. And listen, we're disappointed to see him go. And you see Celtic supporters saying, don't get too close to the players or the manager singing their name. Listen, I've always said, enjoy everybody when they're there. You know, if they move on, doesn't matter. As long as they try and bring you success and do their job, enjoy them while they're there, because we know it's always changing.
You're about the
Always
badge,
changing.
not the name in the back.
That's always.
There's a lot of kids though with Jota on it. Although the news strip, have you seen it today?
Yeah,
on social media. What's this with black on it?
I'm always green and white, but I like to keep those. And I know football changed, because it's ironic. Someone sent me and said that, do you know you scored the first ever goal for Celtic with a sponsor on the front?
Oh, did you? Yes, C.R. Smith.
Seemingly, it was against Dundee.
Okay.
It was a penalty kick, 3-2 at Dens Park.
Right.
And I was like, I'd never even thought of anything like that. But that shows you how football has changed. You talk about sponsorships and that now. That was the first time, and when would that have been? I don't know when that would have been, because Brian McClare, I think, scored that day. No, in fact, God rest him, it was Tommy.
Was it Tommy Burns?
Tommy
Yeah.
and John Colquhoun.
Oh, yeah, my goodness.
And you know the
Wow.
secret of it was, we missed a penalty. Mark Reid missed a penalty.
Yeah.
John Bomber Brown went up and missed a penalty. And then we got another penalty, and I scored it. And I was young. Danny told me to go up and take it.
You
I
got
was
2
the youngest.
penalties. Who was the referee?
Oh, I know exactly. Get sacked after it.
Steady. He's joking. Great days. Right, I need to ask you though. Right, first day of training for Rangers today, so they'll be finished now. Celtic have got it on Monday, and I know the players are probably fitter now than they were then. Yeah,
No.
the way the game is. Oh, they're not.
No.
Okay, right. Oh, you're not having that
No,
one.
I'm not having that.
Okay, all right.
No, definitely not. At different times now, but 100%. Nobody would outrun us. Nobody would, at that particular time, with or without the ball, and still wouldn't have if we'd have trained the same way. Honestly, Paul, some of the training we've done was the hardest you've ever done, ever. And I mean, sometimes you'd be going 2.5 weeks, but for the 2.5 weeks, you'd be doing 3 sessions of running. And I mean, sometimes you'd went out and you thought it was just a bit of tightness and all that. But little did you know you'd a tear and all this sort of. You just didn't
Who
know.
trained you hardest then? Of all the managers and coaches that you had, who was the Frank Connor?
Yeah,
No.
me Frank was phenomenal. I mean, I was under 16 at the time, and I was still playing under 16 when I was full time, and I was going into train with the senior players and whatever. God Almighty, You know what I mean? But it wasn't even time then, Paul. You just ran it, you were sick. You know, that was
Jock Wallace did that with Rangers, didn't he?
But it was,
Gullen, the Sands.
I bet it was phenomenal. But as I say, I still. They talk about character building at that particular time, and it probably was. But as I say, no, the funny thing, and I've spoken about it before on here, we weren't allowed a drink of water. And I mean, we were.
You weren't allowed?
No.
Why?
If we'd have taken a drink of water, I remember, God rest Big Billy, we were running around Celtic Park, we'd been doing horseshoes and up and down the old Rangers End. You remember the stairs at the back. So it was a phenomenal run. It was the hardest run. Really, really difficult run. And there was a wee sprinkler on the pitch doing for the seed at that particular time. We were going along trying to get a drink from it, and Big Billy shouting at him, if I see one of yous taking a drink out of that, he's going to be here to the night. And we're like, so we didn't realise, Paul, honest to God, I used to come off training shaking, but I didn't realise what it was, because you'd weigh yourself before you went out. I'd be coming in at £8 down, and that's £8 down. Wow. But I would be shaking, but I didn't realise I was dehydrated, because we didn't know at that particular time, you know what I mean? But that was the way training was, and that was the way you were judged. And it used to be everybody was rattling with bin bags on, everything like that, because you'd take the first 2 weeks as you talk about going your holidays and whatever, but the next 4 weeks you were running like a deer on your own, because you're thinking, I better get back there. The only person I could honestly say was Big Peter Latchford. Big Peter Latchford.
Yeah. Nothing disturbed him.
No, Big Peter didn't care how far he was. But it was fantastic times. But Joe Jordan really trained us hard. Joe, when he was Liam's assistant. Oh dear, Of
course, all the Italian,
all the Italian stuff.
The Giocatori,
everything. You know, it was phenomenal running. You know,
sad Gordon McQueen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just the funeral. Great to see so many people there paying respects to an
phenomenal
absolute
player as well as person.
Yeah,
you know, so really disappointing. And Craig
Brown. Yeah,
wow,
you knew him so well.
Yeah, well, since I was 12. I knew Craig, and he invited me down with under 15s, believe it or not. And I remember him and Andy Roxburgh were so far ahead. I used to think, you know, bringing coaches in to coach young players on the basics of left and right foot at that particular time.
Were they?
And, oh, yeah. I'm trying to remember. Carol Hines Heathergott, it's just come in my mind. He brought a coach, was one world famous, Carol Hines Heathergott, and taking him down to Largs, and we were doing all the coaching with him. And as I say, I always thought Craig and Andy were way ahead and didn't get the respect, because people always used to think of them as teachers. Yeah. You know, but they were teachers, phenomenal football teachers. And I think that was the biggest thing for them. You know, and it tells you with the way their careers went and what they'd done in their careers, tells you how clever they were. And they were well ahead of the game.
Your old team, Celtic, have been taking much of the attention the last few weeks, with Brendan Rodgers arriving as manager for the second time round, and it starts on Monday, although of course there's signings going on anyway from the football department. What do you think they need? And the money coming for Jota, which will be maybe 17 million to them, what do you think Celtic are going to be looking for now? What do they really, really need? Well,
if you're talking about Jota going, there's your wide player needs to come in. You've got some boys there, Haksabanovic and whatever.
Chance for him.
Chance, opportunity. You know, they've got to step up.
Can he take it?
That's up to. I think he's a talented player. He's not got the speed. I think he's better on the left-hand side than he is on the right, because he can't get by. He's not got that pace to take you by. But when he plays on the left-hand side, I think he's a fantastic player. He sees pictures when he comes inside, can score goals. But as I say, Brendan's teams are slightly different. You know, so it'll be interesting to see how they play. How will the fullbacks play? Will they still come in the pitch and play in that area of the pitch? Does that change everything? You know, so you don't know. And as I say, Brendan will have his own ideas. I'm sure they've been working really hard, looking at players and the balance of the squad. Maybe Jota's a bit of a surprise, because I don't think anybody in England would have paid £25 million for him. So I think they'd have thought that had been comfortable at this moment in time. And you don't think Saudi Arabia have not been singing a lot of young ones. No. So you're thinking Jota maybe about the picture there, but obviously his agent's done a fantastic job there for him. But I'm sure Celtic will be looking to think 25 million for 6 million. Okay, and maybe make 17 million out of it. Okay, they don't want to lose the player, but unfortunately, finances, and we know what it's like. If somebody wants to go, as soon as they get that and the kid's on, I don't know how much money Paul will be on, but if they're offering them £10 million a year.
Do you think there's going to be a big name coming soon? Although it's hard to see what's a big name in the Scottish context, given, you know, the budgets you hear, you know, Maddison at 40 million, which is probably a steal. They're saying, 40 million would be an entire budget up here for two teams.
Absolutely, and I've said that to you. You know, it's very difficult. We all would know what the players would like to come, and that's why I always say, put us in the Premier League in England. There'd be a lot more attraction to Celtic Football Club, and That absolutely no doubt of that. Then you'd be talking about you could be affording the Madisons, because they'd be wanting to come in and play in a Celtic and all that sort of stuff. But because obviously in the Scottish League people look upon it completely different, and the finances are obviously phenomenal. You're talking about Declan Rice, 105 million.
Yeah. Is he worth it?
In England they are now.
Sure.
But people would say ball winning midfield player. Okay, I really like him. I think there's things in his game that you want to make better as a young man. But what I really like about him, he plays with a personality.
Yeah.
You know,
and he gave everything for West Ham, didn't he?
I think he plays with a bit of personality, Paul. And I think people forget how important that is. You know, when you're playing with clubs, you have to go out there and think, well, I'm the best. Yeah, I look at it from a coaching point. Oh, he leaves too much room there. He gets too far across the pitch. He should be used it. Can he play that one that breaks the line better instead of playing square?
But he gives everything.
Oh, but he's got a personality.
Yeah.
He handled the pressure. I mean, you heard the chairman talking about the fact that over last year, I think he's knocked back 10 million in wages because he never went last year, and he didn't get his contract renewed because they'd offered him, the chairman said, £200,000 a week, and the kid knocked it back. So fair play to him. And you would never have known that in the game that he was saving himself.
Sure.
He wanted to give everything to try and win. And I think you've got to tip your hat to David Moyes the way he handled it as well with him.
In the last 90 seconds, what about Rangers? What do you expect to see then? I think Michael Beale will be pleased with the business so far.
I'm looking forward to the way they play, because as I say, I know the players, Dowells and all of these guys, and as I say, you want these guys to be fit. That's my, as I say, the question marks you've always had, and I know that's never easy, because sometimes we don't get these guys if they're fully fit and they've played all their games, as we're talking about financially. But it'll be interesting, you know what I mean? And listen, I'm looking forward to Celtic as well, because that's completely different. You know, with Brendan getting in, you know, so that'll be completely different as well. So all I'm looking for is good players coming in, and obviously I hope Celtic remain be number one for sure. That'll never change. But as I say, I'm really looking forward to them playing as well, and seeing the newness of Rangers and see the challenge that they're going to put up.
Yep, Rangers start at Kilmarnock on the 5th of August. Celtic the lunchtime kick-off against Ross County at Celtic Park. Met some amazing people and friends last night. There was a big celebration for Willie and Susan. It was just really special, and lots of people telling me, Peter, they listen to the Go Radio Football Show every night, and I want to thank each and every one of you. People were buzzing about the show.
Oh, but it's great to hear.
So,
listen, I think we
yeah.
try and be honest and talk about football the way, because it's easy to criticise. We'll give an opinion why we criticise. I think that's important. We don't just say, oh, he's rubbish. We say, well, this is what we don't think you let yourself down with. And I think that's important. And we'll back managers, and people think because they're a friend. No, because we know what they're going through, because they know there's a situation in the background. And that's what we try and give. You know, not one of these ones that you just say, he's rubbish. Right, okay, thanks very much. Because results dictate. Because everybody can't win. You know, of course. But you know the work they're putting in, trying to win.
That's the hour has come and gone. Thanks again. Last night was amazing. Thank you for that. Next week on Monday night, Andy Walker's going to be here with Rob McLean. So they'll be here on Mondays. The top two. Looking forward to listening to that. Have a great weekend. And remember, Petershill Park tonight, tomorrow, Sunday as well. And that wonderful tournament going on in memory of Paul Kelly.
Well done,
Partick
Kevin.
Thistle Trust. But Kevin and everyone involved in that, get along there, make a donation, and it's going to help people in the north of Glasgow and beyond. Thanks so much.
The Go Radio Football Show. Subscribe to the Go Radio YouTube channel for our latest videos.
Let's go!